months. It's just, no, you just forgot about the previous 75 and a half years. It's not that there wasn't anything going on. It's like the third year, and it's like, no, Ukraine was attacked in 2014. That you can't skip that first 8 years. It's actually 11 years old. And I know we do this compartmentalization to try to make things make sense in our heads, because it simplifies things. The problem is the world isn't simple. It's complicated and it's messy. Imagine if there was a country in Europe that was occupied by another country that kept getting bombed regularly, and then the country that was doing this to this one place bombed its neighbors as well. Like, people would be outraged, they would be appalled, they would be talking about how Poland needs to be liberated from oh wait, that did happen, that was World War II. Oh, it is happening, it's the Ukraine war. So, right, we have this double standard where we pay attention to it when it's happening to people we identify as white, although technically, according to US race law, Arabs are white, which I think is hilarious because you don't get any of the protections of a minority, but you get all the discrimination because nobody identifies Arabs as whites except for the law. So at the end of the day, we don't seem to. There was that journalist in the British, I think he was a British journalist. He was in Kiev when the war ramped up in 2022. So not when the war started, but when it got ramped up. And he said, you don't expect to see this in a civilized place. You expect to see this in a place like Baghdad or Afghanistan. And I was like, wow, you just summarized and encapsulated the type of racism that's the underlying factor in making people not pay attention and not care. So I don't know. I don't know how you push back against that.
Thank you so much for that. Kelsey, love your, I'm sorry, guys, I'm trying to plow through at this point so I can get everybody heard. We're still waiting for the jizya from the Zionists, but go ahead, Kelsey.
Okay, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. But first of all, saying that I'm a massive fan is an understatement. Um, I if you look at my YouTube like history, there's like hours of your like recorded lectures. Anyway, so here on TikTok,
I'm so sorry.
we have dozens of lives every single day, and at least once
Got some time. Yeah.
What?
indigenous from Jordan or they originate from the Arabian Peninsula. So I just wanted to know what you had to say about that statement and how you would rebuttal that statement.
Yeah, I mean it's a strange statement. So I guess are they saying that there was no Nakba, like there was no mass migration of people out of Palestine during the Israeli conquest? They're not saying that. They're saying, oh, those were just Egyptians and Jordanians who were fleeing. Um, I I don't even. It's so illogical and it's so random that it doesn't even make sense. I guess the feeling that I have is if a if a Cherokee comes up to you and says, my house used to be on this land that your house is now, or a Lipan Apache, are you gonna hand over your house and go, oh, my bad, I'm so sorry, let me move back to Europe? I'm sure Germany will let me right back in. Ireland has plenty of room. I don't understand the argument. The argument is that something happened thousands of years ago, and now the population that's there doesn't have a right to be there. It seems really really strange. So okay, what else are we going to roll back? The Turks are originally from Mongolia, so I guess we have to move them back to Mongolia, and the Greek population that was in Turkey wasn't indigenous either, so it's not like we can bring Greeks in. We're going to have to figure out how we bring back the Carians and the Lydians and the Paphlagonians. Like I don't know what we do. Like their languages are dead. It's going to be complicated. one of the problems with the right is the right is always looking to some point in the past where they think it was the ideal world. So for the United States, it's the 1800s when there was slavery and women couldn't vote and we were actively genociding Native Americans running around in cowboy hats. For the Nazis, it's sometime around the year 1000 when people are running around with lances and armor and killing each other in jousting matches. For the Italian fascists, it's when there was a Roman Empire and the Romans were committing acts of genocide and plundering the wealth of their neighbors. Everybody has this moment that's this perfect moment, and if they could just get it back. And I guess the Zionist project is to create this Jewish-only Palestine and somehow get back to where they imagine it was. By the way, there was never such a thing, right? Palestine always had multiple different ethnicities. It's never been Jewish only because the whole world is like that. There's never been a place that was specifically only one ethnicity with one religion. People have always lived in diverse countries. And so this idea that you can get back to that is amazing because it has to be at the expense of the Palestinian population. You can't have both. And the tragedy is that for thousands of years, the Jewish community in the Middle East has peacefully coexisted with its neighbors, especially after the rise of Islam, because historically Muslims and Jews have been really good allies. And so not only is this idea reactionary, it's anathema, it's ahistorical. It doesn't make any sense. The majority of the Palestinian population's DNA is of Jewish descent. It's just that they converted. The Romans spent a lot of effort genociding the Jewish population in Palestine, but the Jewish population in Palestine was never fully exterminated. It survived, it persevered, despite every attempt the Romans, and by the way, the Neo-Babylonians weren't exactly kind either. Despite that, they managed to get through the other side. So just like that, the Palestinians, I expect, will get through the other side because that's one of the things that we've learned from history is genocide rarely actually succeeds. It just causes a bunch of misery and suffering along the way.
And it definitely is a genocide. I'm going to go to, thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm going to ask the Zionists to yell free Palestine or pay the jizya. And then we're going to go to his question. Z Justice, your choice. I think it's
I
a
just
fair
wanted to
trade,
quickly
don't you
say,
think, Dr. Casagranda? Go ahead, Kelsey.
So we're not
I
going to
just wanted to
dehumanize
say
anybody.
thank you.
Dr. Casagranda, do you agree with dehumanizing other people if you were actually believing in the rights of the Palestinians, which I actually read your work and I can agree with a lot of what you actually have to say. But I do have a question for you, though.
Wait, but I
I mean,
didn't
do you
hear,
think that
hold on. I didn't hear the free Palestine and I didn't see the jizya. I'm not joking. I'm like not joking. You got to yell free Palestine. Go ahead.
yells free Palestine here? So
Go
it's
ahead,
you.
Kelsey. What was that? Kelsey, go ahead.
Kelsey or me?
Sorry,
Kelsey.
my
Oh, go
my
ahead.
phone, my screen froze. Oh no, I was just saying, thank you for allowing me up here, and thank you, doctor, for answering my question. It's I'm fangirling just like a little bit, and it's an honor to be able to talk to you.
W.
Thank you so
Kelsey.
much. You know what? I want to actually address something. So for me, a just world is that Jews can live anywhere they want to, and Palestinians can live anywhere they want to, and they can live peacefully in the same place or somewhere else, whatever. I can't comprehend this need that people have that there's a piece of land that you must be attached to. And it almost seems like it's very reactionary for one thing, but it almost seems like captivity at that point. Um, when I think of the Middle East and what it used to be, where there were Jewish communities in Morocco and Egypt and Yemen and Iraq, that to me is what the world should be. It should have that kind of diversity. One of the problems of Zionism is it's helped destroy those communities. And in my ideal imagination, somehow we get those communities back. That experience that I spend a month in Morocco. And we went all over Morocco. And so my wife and I decided that the first thing we were going to do, first chance we got, was start going to synagogues every time we went to a new city. And we were doing this because we wanted to a vibrant Jewish community that has effectively been ethnically cleansed, and that's a tragedy. By the way, not by the Moroccan state. When the state of Israel first started asking for Jewish Moroccans to move to Israel, the king of Morocco said, no, these are our Jews, you can't have them. And then world pressure was like, you can't block people from leaving, and he had to take away the ban and allow them to move. And so it was a voluntary ethnic cleansing to a degree. There's also a lot of documentation that the Israelis tricked and kidnapped some Moroccans, but nonetheless, that's what happened. And for the record, my plumber is Jewish Moroccan Israeli, who I talked into going to Morocco, and he went and he had a fantastic time, and he now has this sense of his connection to Morocco. Anyway, so the first synagogue we go to in Casablanca, there was a note pinned to the door of the house next to the synagogue. And it said, I'm the son of the last rabbi of this synagogue, and I still live here. I will never leave. There will always be some Jewish Moroccans. And it was this statement of defiance. Long story short, we went to several other places. We get to Essaouira. We go into this synagogue. The Moroccan state had spent millions of dollars on this synagogue. We go in, and there's this woman who's she's like the manager for the synagogue. And my wife goes, are you Jewish? And she goes, no, I'm Muslim. And my wife goes, why has the Moroccan state put all this money into upkeeping these synagogues and taking care of this and, creating museums to preserve the stuff that got left behind, the artifacts that got left behind? Like, why are they putting the millions of dollars into this? And she said, we Moroccans feel a terrible wound. The Jewish Moroccan population was ours. We've lost it. We want it back. We will keep these synagogues up and running until they come back. At which point, my wife goes, are they coming back? She said, we've been very lucky that some Jewish Europeans and Jewish Israelis have begun to spend their summers here, and we hire a rabbi so that they have a rabbi and they can come use the synagogue. And so we now have them for 2 or 3 months of the year, and we're hoping that as time goes by, they'll start to come home. And of course, by that point, I'll just admit it, I was in tears. And I think that's what people miss, is that Israel's cruelty to Palestine is one thing, but there's the other problem, which is so much of the Middle East feels like it's been ripped apart, that there's a piece of it that's been lost in all of this, that these vibrant, beautiful Jewish communities have been taken away, and it's not fair. Egypt put a whole city block in downtown Cairo and said, this is the Jewish Community Center, please come home. And they're doing the same thing. They're spending millions of dollars trying to upkeep their synagogues. It's a tragedy because it's unnaturally split the Jewish community off from its Christian and Muslim Middle Eastern brothers and sisters. And so to me, justice is getting back to this place where everybody can live next to each other and not murder each other and not go, this is mine, this is mine. Maybe a legal deed would be a good idea instead of simply occupying somebody's house.
Thank you so much for that.
Anyway,
With that, we are, I think do you have time for 2 more or no?
I could maybe do one more. I'm
We could do
actually a
one
little
more.
bit late, but I just don't want to
No,
say
I'm
bye.
so sorry. Okay, so let's go to
No, it's
this sucks to her. This like I can't even pick. Muhammad, can you ask your question really quick so maybe we could fit in Pacifics as well?
So she can go first, but mine was just with the war on like information and that we have everything on our fingertips. What are the pros and cons that you've seen with modern day propaganda, and like the pros and cons of having information that way versus not having the false information being spread? Also, thank you for the information you gave. I'm a forensic analytical geneticist. I talk about the Palestinian genes to the Canaanite bones all the time, and it made me really happy hearing that. That was just a side note.
Oh, I
Awesome.
love your video of actually saying that the Israelis are unaliving the original people of the land. I watch that on repeat. I play that on repeat, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is like everything, technology is good and bad, right? And so we live in an age where if you wanted to, you could easily access so much information. You know, sometimes in academia, people mock Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. As a general rule, I think that Wikipedia is really solid. If for no other reason, there's always a bibliography at the bottom, and you can just go mine the bibliography. Like it's a gem, it's a jewel. Sometimes there's inaccuracies. I myself go in and sometimes catch them and change them. I'm not saying it's perfect by any means. It's just the information is there. There's plenty of websites that are reliable. There's plenty of news sources that are reliable. You could easily access good information. The problem is people, as a general rule, don't start with, I don't know what to think. Let me go do some research. They start with, I believe X. Let me go find information that confirms it. And as a result, people will tend to go down rabbit holes instead of trying to get at the truth. I'm really nervous about AI and what AI will do for this, like to the extent to which AI not just hallucinates, but seems to want to give you an answer that will please you. It really bothers me because I feel like it'll just feed that impulse that people have. So when I imagined what the internet was going to do, 30 years ago, I imagined that we would become much more enlightened. And what I've seen instead is now there's a bunch of flat earthers running around saying that there are lizard people who eat children's faces running the government. It's really been a disappointment.
Thank you for that. Pacific Brunette, I think we can fit in your question and then we're gonna have to end. But before you go, love, Dr. Casagranda, there is actually a poll. It's right above your box, and the crowd is begging to have you back. Think we can make that happen?
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, let's
Okay,
do it.
awesome.
Especially now that I've maybe gotten through all the technical problems.
Awesome. Pacific Brunette, love, go ahead.
You. Nice to meet you, Dr. Casagranda. First off, I'd like to say that you're a huge asset to the pro-Pali debate talk community. We cite you as our source against our debates with Zionists all the time. Will tell you this, Mustafa will tell you this, Luna down there, and Didi, of course. You are a common source that is cited in our debates. And second, I kind of
Wow.
want to get your opinion on this on your insight to this question. Oftentimes, the Zionists will cite biblical history as to where the name Palestine came from. They'll say things like, it was once Syria Palestina was named by the Romans, and it was once before that called they were the Philistines, and they were basically these Aegean invaders that came across the sea, and literally means to invade or be an invader. But our side holds the position that the name actually came from Palashtu, which is dates back to the 7th, 6th century BC in Egyptian and Assyrian inscriptions. What is your insight to the origins of the name Palestine?
Yeah, so I've heard both of these. The idea that the Philistines were invaders from the Aegean. I think that was it Santorini, the name of the volcano that exploded. There was a volcano that exploded
Right.
in the Aegean.
In
Yeah,
the
and
Aegean
it
Peninsula?
caused a mass exodus.
Yeah. And I
What was
also
that?
would like to add, it's pretty
Yeah,
convenient how it aligns with their biblical narrative.
yeah.
Philistines, yeah.
And one of the interesting things about the archaeology done on that Aegean population that moved into Palestine was apparently they were technologically superior to the population already living there, and it was a technological upgrade. So the term "you're such a Philistine" should actually be a compliment, apparently, not an insult. So I don't know. I find that getting bogged down in these conversations about what happened 2,600 years ago in terms of a name is a distraction. It doesn't matter where the name came from. It doesn't matter how the name came about. It was the name for thousands of years. And at the end of the day, there is a population of people who identify with that name. The countries and nations are born all the time. So I'll give you an example of how you can birth a nation. By the way, a shit ton of violence is really useful, like when you want to make a nation. So during the United States Civil War, long story, I'll try to make it really short. The Confederacy had this crazy idea of capturing San Francisco. And they actually launched the attack from Texas, from El Paso. And they got all the way, they captured Santa Fe, New Mexico. Like that's how far they got in their conquest of San Francisco before they got in trouble. They weren't militarily defeated, but their supply train was destroyed. And the Confederates were forced to retreat back to Texas. A California unit had been sent to interrupt them, and had they continued, had they not been defeated, they would have been cut off because the California unit just simply occupied what is today Las Cruces, and they wouldn't have worked. But in any case, Kit Carson showed up, and he went to those Californians and he said, "You guys look bored. Do you want something to do?" Because they weren't attacking Texas. They were just occupying New Mexico. He said, "Do you want something to do? I have this group of really annoying Apaches I'd like to fight." So they said, sure. They went up. They attacked the Apaches. They rounded them up. They took them to a place near Fort Sumner in New Mexico called Bosque Redondo, and they made a concentration camp. And they stuck them in this concentration camp for 10 years. And those Apaches realized really early on they didn't identify as Apaches. They didn't identify with each other. They hated each other's guts. They were rivalrous with one another, but they spoke the same language. And they realized if they didn't start working together, they were going to be genocided. They were going to starve to death. They were going to die of disease. This was the end. So they put aside all their clanal hatred. Like each clan hated the other clan. They put aside all of it. And they cooperatively began working together for 10 years in a concentration camp. And at the end of the period when they were released, they knew they now had an identity. And that identity was Navajo. And if you walked up to a Navajo today and said, "Y'all are just a bunch of Apaches," you'd probably get punched in the face. Because they no longer identify as Apache. They have a new national identity. It doesn't matter that they were Athabascans. It doesn't matter that they were Apaches. None of that they speak a language that's almost exactly the same as Apache. None of that matters because their new identity is Navajo. And that's how they are. That's who they are. It's the Dutch. There's no such thing as Dutch language. There's a dialect of Low German called Dutch. But if you walked up to a Dutch person and said to them, "You're just a Low German," you'd probably get punched in the face because they don't identify that way anymore. They identify as Dutch. In other words, what the Zionists have been trying to do is redefine what a Palestinian is and tell Palestinians what they think they should be. Well, the reality is Palestinians have already defined themselves. Every nation defines itself. It doesn't need another nation to define it for it. Although, if another nation does define it for it and exerts just enough violence, you can create new nations. So one of the arguments that I've heard over and over again is that the Palestinians had no national identity before Israel was created. My response to that is always the same. Congratulations, Dr. Frankenstein, your monster lives. Because the violence of the Nakba and the 77 years since have definitely cemented a Palestinian identity. If there wasn't one in 1947, there sure as hell is one now. And, so at the end of the day, it's just nonsensical that we're having these conversations about what happened 2,600 years ago. One more twist on this. Napoleon, he used nationalism to motivate the French army. The French army went on a rampage. At one point, Napoleon owned everything from Madrid to Moscow. One of the places they rampaged through was Germany. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, Napoleon's defeated. But what happened? The Germans went, "We need that. We need to harness nationalism. That's a superpower." And they did. And the world paid the price for it. It was a catastrophe. it's worthwhile remembering that the National Socialist German Workers' Party, national, because they were nationalists, got shortened to Nazi. Nationalism is Nazism at the end of the day. And one of the tragedies of nationalism is it spreads violence everywhere it goes, and in the process changes people's identities. And what matters now is the identities on the ground now, not how the name came about. And by the way, they're not mutually exclusive. That the Syrians and the Egyptians were using one name, and that there were the Philistines. That it doesn't. It could be all totally connected. It doesn't matter. This is just the way it worked out and how people identified. Anyway,
That is amazing. I cannot thank you enough for your time. I'm super excited to coordinate another event with you. We still had so many people that wanted to get to questions, and we didn't get the chance because honestly, you're a wealth of knowledge. So this has been excellent. The Zionists have crashed out completely in the comments, which is hysterical to watch. So thank you so much, Dr. Casagranda, for your time. I know we've gone over time, and I can't thank you enough for that.
yeah. I saw a comment that said, "Are you against Palestinian nationalism?" So I just have to comment on this. I am in principle against nationalism. I think nationalism is awful. But how can you say a population of people who have been under the kind of violence and pressure don't have a right to stand up for their nationality? Like I can't be against nationalism in the case of Palestine because it's a defense mechanism. It's the result of trauma trying to somehow make something out of this. Anything that leads to liberation, I support. Anything that leads to oppression, I stand against. My hope is on the other side, when there's a free Palestine, that it'll be converted into Palestinian patriotism and not nationalism, where the love of a thing isn't exclusive. Nationalism says my nation is superior to all other nations, which means all other nations are inferior. Patriotism says I love my country. That doesn't mean you can't love other people's countries also. It's not exclusive, but nationalism is. So yeah, in principle, I'm
Mhm.
against nationalism, but I'm always for liberation. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know.
No, it definitely does. And listening to your lectures and knowing what it used to be, right? When Palestine was pre the failed settler colonial project, I mean, we lived in peace. We loved the land. We all were happy together. Were there skirmishes? Yeah, of course, every country has it, right? But at the end of the day, there was no human above another. And that's what we want to go back to. Definitely what I shout, a one state solution where everyone is treated the same. So thank you so, so much, Dr. Casagranda.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. You have a great night. Guys, I just wanted,
You
you know what,
too.
Dr. Casagranda, I wanted to ask you, did you want to plug anything, by the way? I did mention your book in the beginning, but is there anything that you wanted to plug?
I guess my YouTube channel, uh,
Absolutely.
which is
I
at
can tell you I'm
Dr.
on it.
Roy Casagranda spelled out. Okay, yeah.
Dr. Roy Casagranda spelled out, guys, and I will put it in my Discord. I can tell you I watch every single episode. And if you're not on it, you're slacking. And I can tell you that my entire panel definitely watches you. When I tell you I've had the minute I announced you're joining us, I have gotten so many people saying I'm a huge, huge fan. So you are very well loved on this app. And did
Doc,
you
before
know,
you
by the
go,
way, that you have a fan page that has over 200,000 followers, by the way? You didn't know? Yeah, I didn't think you did. I actually thought it was
No,
you.
it's almost
I
as many
guess,
as my YouTube.
yeah. You actually have a
It's
fan page, but go ahead,
hilarious.
Kim. I know you said something.
Doc, I don't have a question. I just want to let you know I've been watching you since high school. Me and my friends, we were all from Arabic countries, from Middle Eastern countries, and it was amazing to have someone speak about us in English, first of all, and to be able to share that with other people that are not from our countries in a language they would understand. Um, it's a dream talking to you, so thank you so much for everything you do. And I really hope to see you next time so I can ask you my question.
All right,
Thank you
thanks.
so much. Thank you, Dr. Casagrande. I know
Take
you've got to
care.
go. Thank you. Have a great night. Guys, everybody that's in
Bye.
here,
Take care.
I am, thank you so much. I am having a live event on Thursday. It's a really important live event.